Hello and welcome. This is the Market Wrap. I'm Agam Vakil. Let's take a look at how the markets have done today. Well, we've seen a little bit of weakness coming through on the Nifty. And, well, if you actually leave the benchmark aside, there have been some very, very sharp moves in the stocks today. And we'll talk about a whole host of them. But let me just quickly brisk through what we've seen. So we've seen a little bit of recovery in Yes Bank, which is up 3.2%, 3.4%. Some gains in Bharti Infratel, Power Grid, and HDFC Bank. Of course, HDFC Bank continues to see short covering in today's day of trade, along with Hero MotoCorp and Bajaj Auto. Of course, on the losing end, we have weakness in Britannia Industries, and we're going to talk about that in just a bit. We have Z Entertainment, Tata Motors, and ICICI Bank, along with IndusInd Bank, showing some amount of weakness. And that's the reason why we're seeing up 0.2% cut in today's day of trade. In the broader markets, as far as the NSE 500 is concerned, 2 gainers for 3 losers. Sharda Cropchem gaining 12%, followed by Ajanta Pharma having a very good day of trade, as is the case for, Canfin Homes and Bombay Dyeing Company. DCM Shriram, HEG, and Lotus Labs also up and about in trade. But on the losing end, traders taking this opportunity to short Jet Airways yet again, down 12.5%, followed by Reliance Power. Escorts and Bank of Maharashtra, along with Dilip Bilkon, losing out even further. Some weakness coming in on some of those names. But let's get in a perspective here. I'm going to get in our markets editor, Neeraj Shah, for his thoughts. Neeraj, how are you reading into this?
Well, nothing's out of a day if you look at the index levels, but a fair bit of protection bought on the options, and that's what the volumes seem to suggest. I'm guessing the Bhav copy will probably give you better details. I think it was a factor of 3 large heavyweights holding the index up: Reliance, HDFC, Twins.
Right.
Those 3 helped hold up the index, and that is what you saw per se. But the usual suspects continued to correct. So Yes Bank may have been an exception, but the NBFCs by and large, which are large repayments due, are all correcting. We saw some of the brokerage names correct quite strongly as well. Edelweiss, for example, a case in point, down at 140. Jet Airways had problems of its own. Some of the PSU banks had problems of their own.
Right.
So that bucket continues to weaken. Autos, interestingly, despite the commentary looking very, very sluggish, save for Tata Motors, the other two-wheeler names went up. TVS Motors, yes, of course, corrected, but that too recovered quite strongly in trade.
Yes.
So quite interesting. But just the fact that this earnings season isn't quite shaping up the way one would have hoped quarter 4 to shape up, Agam. Your space, consumption in particular, the commentary isn't, or the delivery isn't quite shaping up really strongly. I don't know what you would have to say to that. So that is one key factor. And if indeed, save for corporate facing banks, and there too Yes Bank has been an exception to the rule, if the others also turn out a bit wobbly, then you would stand to be a lot more disappointed than be happy at the end of quarter 4. And mind you, it's in stark contrast to what's happening in the US,
That's
wherein
right.
75% of the companies have actually come out with much better than anticipated numbers. So a lot to ponder over, I would reckon.
Absolutely, Neeraj. But as far as, just very quickly to touch upon the consumption trend, since you've spoken about it, very early in the quarter, HUL had indicated that the entire industry is seeing a slowdown. That was evident in Dabur's numbers in terms of volumes. Britannia? Surprisingly has held its own when it comes to volumes. Of course, it has its other set of challenges. But tomorrow is where we get HUL's earnings as well as Godrej Consumer Products, and that should give us a better idea of how consumption trends are shaping up. So of course tomorrow will be a big day for consumption as well in terms of earnings. But Neeraj, thank you for that perspective here. Of course, as Neeraj has suggested, some of those factors will play out in the markets. But moving on, let's talk about the auto sector, because that is one other aspect that Neeraj has touched upon. I'm going to get in Yatin Mota to talk to us about the kind of trends that we're seeing in the auto sector in terms of volumes, and also some I would say a little bit of recovery coming through towards the end of the day.
End of the day, there is recovery, but the auto companies are guiding for a weak first half. If you look at sales for Maruti also, they dropped nearly 17%. Of course, today we had Bajaj Auto, which came out with their monthly numbers for the month of April. Their overall sales were up, marginally 2-3%, but the domestic motorcycle business grew 3% in terms of volumes, despite the fact that Hero MotoCorp, TVS Motors, all of these companies are expecting to see decline in sales. If you look at Mahindra & Mahindra automotive sales, there also we saw a 9% decline coming in. Of course, if you look at the internals, the utility vehicles or the main SUV business of Mahindra & Mahindra, there the volumes were down 7% despite the new launches which are there in the marketplace. Tractor business, of course, for Mahindra & Mahindra was better than the street expectations. Despite better performance, we still saw sales down by nearly 8% for the tractor business. TVS Motors, the sales were up 8% at 3.18 lakh units, and this is largely to do with the fact that that scooter segment is exceedingly doing well, much better than the industry. Their inventory levels are also less than 5 weeks, and probably that is also a helping factor there. Scooter sales were up 9% for TVS Motors. So these are a couple of auto numbers which came in during the market hours today. Of course, Royal Enfield, Maruti, all of these companies reported weak numbers, and we saw some correction for all of these stocks in trade today.
All right, Yatin, thank you for giving us those details. So, auto sector in focus, and along with that, plenty of other earnings. And for that, I'm going to get in Sharad Dubey to give us what is made on his list of 2 other buzzing stocks today. Sharad.
Well, Agam, we were discussing earlier about the consumption space, and then we have Dabur coming in with the results. The results are not pretty good, and I would like to point out the volume growth. It is around 4.3%, and the street and analysts expected around 5 to 8%. Apart from this, the company also suffered an exceptional loss. Now you see what the stock reaction was. You see over here, Dabur stock, throughout the day when the results came out, stock ended at around 4% down. And there was also an exceptional loss of 75 crores, Agam, in this current quarter. And all the margins have also dipped because of higher employee expenditure. And when it comes to the international business, the company has seen a reported degrowth of 1% when it comes to constant currency terms. And when it comes to the margins and net profit also, the estimates, it was below the estimates. The second company which came out with a good set of numbers, the other side of the coin, is Bandhan Bank. It's coming out almost 4%. It's strong numbers coming in. The numbers came in, as you can see, around 12:30 odd time, and the stock went up almost 4.2%. So they're winning on the PAT front and the GNPA front, as the GNP ratios remain stable when it comes to the absolute terms. And apart from this, there was a strong AUM growth driven by both micro as well as non-micro loans. Also, Agam, there was other income of around 388 crores rupees because they were going to sell portions of PSLC. So all in all, for Bandhan Bank, it is a good operational numbers, and for Dabur, it's kind of weak numbers based on volumes.
Right. Well, Sharad, thank you for joining us and getting us those details. Just a very quick word on Britannia specifically, and even though I've glossed over it with Neeraj to a certain extent, well, Britannia has come up with a steady set, largely in line with street expectations, but there were a few problems. One, of course, was with respect to the outlook, where the management has suggested that in line with the industry, there seems to be some subduedness when it comes to demand in terms of the business, of course, and hence the outlook. Of course, the other bit out here that may just be a little concerning is the fact that about 25% of the current investments of the company are towards other group companies, and that means that about 700 odd crores have been allocated to deposits towards other group companies. But the only issue is that the other group companies such as Bombay Dyeing have their own sets of challenges, and which may hamper or get hampered. So it's taken as a risk by a lot of analysts, and there is some sort of speculation that why is it that the company is actually placing funds with these problematic companies in comparison to perhaps fixed deposits or some other investment tools. But if you leave that aside, on the whole, it's been a fairly steady quarter for Britannia, and also the outlook, while the management continues to suggest that they're going to focus on the new platforms that they have already launched and or they plan to launch. Of course, there is also some amount of caution when it comes to the demand environment. And on that note, it's a wrap on the markets, but lots more lined up. Stay tuned to Bloomberg Net.